it's faith. It's a faith-based form of nutrition. Ashley Renee Chong, or Raw and Radiant on Instagram. She has over 96,000 followers. Raw vegan for 9 years. Going by her posts, she eats a lot of fruit, a lot of salads. So it looks like a typical low-fat, high-fruit raw vegan diet, similar to what Freely eats. Also, like Freely, she has a lot of ebooks for sale, a 21-day cleanse, recipes for skin and hair, a guide to living foods, a workout guide, raw transformation guide, raw food masterclass coming soon, $297, okay, and even a book for kids called Raw for Kids. Discover how to easily raise a well-balanced, healthy, physically strong, intelligent child on a living plant-based diet. Nutrition guidelines for ages newborn to 2 and ages 2 to 5. Everything you need to keep your child happy and healthy is here. So diet recommendations for children, very young children, from someone who seemingly does not have any sort of dietetics degree. Oh, and it's $37. Or you can buy this ebook about feeding young children vegan, written by actual dietitians for less than half the price. Tough choice. Unsurprisingly, I was a bit scared going into this. I do not believe it's appropriate to feed children, particularly very young children, exclusively raw foods or even mostly raw foods, especially, diets heavy in fruit. Fruit is very, very water rich and pretty low in calories. And kids that young have very small tummies, so it can be hard just to get enough calories on a diet like that. Not to mention things like calcium and zinc and iron and B12 and vitamin D and protein and iodine. And the few reviews on her Radiant Cleanse ebook, it doesn't instill much confidence as far as her ability as an author. One thing I noticed right away, typos on the first page, on the copyright page. There's an error here with a comma. Again, on the dedication page, together we will create a cycle of superb health, wellness, spiritually. I think she meant spirituality. And again, the comma, the extra space there. Lots of extra spaces between words throughout the book. Lots of words misspelled. Prior to age 18 months, children should experience breast milk and monofruit meals and only. And only. Speaking of, kids can't have anything but breast milk for the first 1.5 years. It's a great way to increase your child's chance of developing a peanut allergy. Anyway, let's get into the content of the book. In chapters 2 and 3, she talks about her pregnancy, having been raw for 4 years prior, and then being raw, I think she says 99% raw, during the pregnancy. I think the non-raw thing are these herbal teas that she drinks. So she ate lots of fruit, lots of lettuce, a whole quart of herbal tea a day, and all of this, of course, made her pregnancy wonderful and very healthy. In fact, she says most of the difficulties of pregnancy are caused by poor health. Tell that to all the women who have suffered through an ectopic pregnancy or placental abruption. To be fair, poor health, poor diet, lack of exercise, stuff like that does increase the risk for many of the most common pregnancy complications. Obesity, for instance, is a risk factor for preeclampsia. So it makes sense to eat healthy and to exercise before and during pregnancy, right? But that doesn't mean every case of preeclampsia is linked to obesity. Many complications happen kind of just because, right? You got unlucky. You have some sort of genetic predisposition, or there's something abnormal with the fetus, things that have nothing to do with diet and exercise. So many women already unnecessarily blame themselves for problems during pregnancy or for loss. And I'm sure Ashley means well, but shit like this is not helping. And please come back and talk to us about how wonderful your pregnancy was when it's your third pregnancy. Because guess what? My first pregnancy was pretty damn easy too. This one, not so much. I'm not even through the second trimester. I'm already having Braxton Hicks. I had some painful ones the other night, very regular, every 3 minutes, which was really shocking and confusing because that's not how it's supposed to work. They're not supposed to hurt. They're not supposed to keep happening like that. No, that went on for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then I stood up and walked around and they went away. Point is, come back and talk to us when you're in your 30s and pregnant with your third or your fourth or your fifth. Thanks. A pregnant and lactating mother can get all the protein she needs eating raw vegan foods. No source for this, of course, no source for literally anything in the book. There's no list of references. Not that that would make a difference. You can check out my video where I review my own raw book. Yes, I had a raw food, raw vegan diet book and a list of references. Just because there are references doesn't mean they say what the person says they say or support whatever, narrative, whatever claim they're making. So it's almost better that she doesn't have any sources. It's a lot easier to just dismiss everything. The onus is on her, right, to put forward the evidence to be convincing with her claims. And really, I mean, you could get enough eating raw vegan foods if you're eating very specific foods and you're very careful with your diet. But her way of eating lots and lots of fruit and vegetables, it's going to be pretty hard, if not impossible. Of course, then she'd probably just say that, well, we don't really need that much protein. The RDA is wrong. That's what you do, right? If you're a carnivore, you say, well, we don't really need vitamin C. If you're a raw foodist, you say, well, we don't really need that much protein. Anyway, she includes her birth plan, which has in all caps no vitamin K shot, no Hep B shot, no eye ointment for the baby. Not surprising, this is very typical of crunchy moms, usually because they think it's unnecessary or even that it's harmful, that the vitamin K shot causes leukemia, for instance. Truth is, vitamin K shots are incredibly safe. They can prevent brain damage, they can even save lives, and you can't just eat enough vitamin K while you're pregnant or while you're breastfeeding to reduce the risk or to keep this from happening because, number one, not a lot of vitamin K crosses over to the baby while you're pregnant, and number two, there's not a lot of vitamin K in breast milk, regardless of how much vitamin K you consume. Infant formula contains way more, which is why you basically never see this, a vitamin K deficiency in babies fed on formula. In other words, the babies most at risk, the ones with moms like Ashley, who rely solely on breastfeeding, are the very ones who would benefit most from receiving a vitamin K shot. Every single baby should get it. Again, there is virtually no risk, and you are perhaps preventing something truly awful. So why would you not? But again, the ones who would stand to benefit the most are the ones least likely to get it because it's unnatural. And the same for Hep B and eye ointment and all the various vaccines that I would not be shocked if she's avoiding or at least delaying. They can save lives with very little risk. There is not much in the medical world that can compare to stuff like this, to vaccines and vitamin K shots. But anyway, let's move on to the diet. Chapter 4, what is raw? So you have lots of typical raw food pseudoscience. Raw foods are living foods. They have a life force that we somehow benefit from when we eat them. I don't really know. I guess the enzymes, right? We benefit from the enzymes. I actually have an older video looking at some of those claims. Basically, no, our body destroys most, if not all of those. They're really not doing anything for us. We make our own enzymes. This section in particular is very funny to me. Many people have thought they could outsmart nature and profit by isolating the beneficial substances in a food. At first, people ate oranges and were healthy. Then someone discovered vitamin C and decided that it was the healthful part of the orange. Later, it was realized that ascorbic acid was important for the absorption of vitamin C. Then they figured out that it was the bioflavonoids they needed. Eventually, they will realize that all we needed was the orange all along, and that nature made it perfectly in the first place. So first, ascorbic acid is vitamin C, right? But also, who just recommends eating vitamin C? You will not find a single major health organization that says, oh, don't worry about eating the orange. Just take a vitamin C supplement. I mean, every single one is explicit that whole foods are very important, that you want the whole package, right? Don't just drink fruit juice even, but actually eat your fruits and vegetables whole. They have other beneficial things like fiber. It's not just about vitamin C. So I don't know. That's a very weird paragraph. All living creatures on the planet, except for humans, eat their food in a raw form. Pretty sure they don't use juicers either, or blenders, or grocery stores, or phones to post on social media. This is such a common thing said by raw foodists. It's so clearly arbitrary. Like, why would you draw the line at cooking? Why not go live in the forest, forage for food, shit in the woods? Maybe because modern conveniences are nice and even have health benefits? Maybe the same could be said for cooked foods? Just a thought. This is really my favorite one. When food is heated, it is chemically altered and loses most of its ability to provide energy. I mean, didn't she talk about obesity earlier and eating cooked foods and becoming obese? I mean, how would that even happen if they lose most of their ability to provide energy? Presumably calories. Wouldn't everyone be like stick thin or dead? She then kind of clarifies, I guess. She says it loses 85% of nutritional value. I think she's confusing energy with like micronutrients, with like vitamins and minerals. Yeah, I mean, some are more heat sensitive than others, but 85%, that's a bit of a stretch. I would love to know where she gets that from. And also, you know, certain foods are enhanced via cooking. Indigenous people throughout the world demonstrate the great life extension benefits that raw food has to offer. Many of these cultures eat a primarily raw diet and live much longer lives. Who and where? Like, what group of people, number one, is eating primarily raw foods, and number two, live much longer than like 78, 79 years? If she's thinking of the blue zones, none of them eat a raw vegan diet. Nature did not intend for your child to grow on meat, dairy, or cooked, devitalized foods. Not only does this way of life starve them nutritionally, it kills them slowly. So to me, just replace nature with God, right? God did not intend for your child to grow on meat. It's faith. It's a faith-based form of nutrition. She has faith in nature as like a thing, like some sort of, I guess, sentient thing that can choose things, that makes things happen. That's not how nature works. That's not how evolution works. There's no intention, and there's certainly no perfection, right? Like when she was talking about the orange earlier and saying that it was made perfectly, nature made it perfectly, something like that. No, we evolved eating various foods, adapting to various foods. It doesn't mean those foods were perfectly made for us. In fact, all of the foods we eat contain toxins, things that are really harmful for us at higher doses. And also, maybe this is silly, but like if nature is some sentient God, she fucking sucks. Why do we have to shit? Why do we have to eat? That's so crappy, pun intended. But specifically, I think of koalas. I just watched this video about koalas the other day. They have to spend basically all day eating this poisonous leaf, eating eucalyptus. They're one of the only animals who can eat them, who have adapted to them. They can actually handle the poison, and it actually makes them poisonous and really gross to other creatures. You know, if this is a result of evolution, that's pretty cool, right? That this creature, this species can still exist on this really awful, dangerous, nutrient-poor food. But if it's a result of a thing of nature, capital N, what the fuck? Like, what a bitch. Why would you do that? Why would you create a creature who has to eat leaves all day and is really dumb and is full of poison? Why would you do that? Anyway, Ashley also talks about studies linking vegan diets to kids and like beneficial outcomes, right? But these studies are not looking at raw veganism in kids, right? They're looking at like normal vegan diets that contain beans and grains and soy milk and stuff that she does not recommend. And the studies that do look at raw vegan specifically typically aren't very positive. Not really fair, not really accurate to link to, you know, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and their statement on vegan diets. They are not talking about raw vegan diets. Is 100% raw necessary for children? This is a yes and no answer. She still recommends 80% of the diet or so needs to be raw, but that's much better than 100% raw for kids. And she did say a bit earlier that her kid eats some cooked food too. She also recommends an appropriate amount of calcium, the RDA for calcium, which is pretty shocking. She recommends that both breastfeeding women and their children take a B12 supplement after blaming it on modern farming instead of just admitting that plant foods are not a good source, but whatever. I'll take what I can get. Although dairy and supplement companies would like us to believe otherwise, after age 1, a child does not need a milk substitute. This includes all nuts or seed milks. It's going to be really hard to get them enough calcium from almond butter and tahini and leafy greens alone. This is what really gets me about people like this who recommend these super high volume vegan diets for kids. They almost never acknowledge the downsides to feeding that much food for little kids. Some kids can handle eating a bunch of fresh fruit and leaves. I don't doubt it at all. But many cannot, simply because of like taste preferences or texture preferences, not liking the taste of a lot of fruits and vegetables, or the texture, really not liking the bitterness in greens. This can keep a lot of kids from eating enough, especially eating enough greens, right? So maybe they can eat enough fruit to get enough calories and seem perfectly fine, but really they're suffering from an iron deficiency or a calcium deficiency or a zinc deficiency. They could get plenty of calories for quite a while and seem perfectly fine while being deficient in various things. And why exactly? She said nothing about the problem with grains and beans, for instance, other than that they're cooked and they don't have a life force anymore, I guess. Refrain from making meal times and allow them to eat naturally when they have an actual appetite. So I think that's fine for some kids. Implying that meal times are bad is a little over the top and certainly does not work for all kids. My second kid, my now 3-year-old, will just not eat for hours and then get really, really pissed. They got that from me. I was the same way when I was a kid, and really sometimes the same way now. I have to be really careful to remind myself to eat. No, I mean, not right now. I'm pregnant. I'm hungry all the time. But when I'm not pregnant, I've talked about it before in what I ate today. It's like I just won't eat until 1 p.m. and I feel terrible. Even though I would have sworn to you I was not hungry at all. And then like noon or 1, all of a sudden I feel like really bad and angry. It's because I need to eat. Point is, meal times can be very, very useful for a lot of us. I think most of us, because often not having meal times means kids are grazing, and often grazing means grazing on less healthy foods. And it also means more time that food is spent on the teeth. If you're going to come out against meal times, you need to have some good evidence suggesting why it's bad. Throw away strollers, bouncers, walkers, and other unnatural items that refrain your baby from learning to move and engage their muscles. Strollers are wheelchairs, and if your baby is physically well, then there is no need for one. Wraps and baby carriers are a much better choice for the best possible development. Wraps and carriers have their own issues for baby development. I talked about this in my attachment parenting video. Second, not every adult can wear a carrier. They're pretty bad for low back pain or shoulder pain, or really any pain around the, torso area, neck pain as well. Third, not every baby likes them. Again, my second one, my now 3-year-old, would not tolerate it. And fourth, again, she only has 1 kid, and I'm not surprised. Like, come back and talk to us when you've got 2 or 3 little ones running around and you're trying to grocery shop or even just go for a walk without a stroller. Good luck. Or really even with 1 kid. I mean, unless you're fortunate enough to have transportation. We didn't for much of the time. My now 5-year-old was little and not walking. And so we would walk everywhere to go shopping and whatnot. And we needed that stroller, number one, for them to sit in, but also as storage. We specifically bought one with like a pretty huge basket thing underneath where we could put our groceries and stuff. It would have been physically impossible for us to carry all of our groceries and our baby and our 9-month-old at the same time. And finally, I mean, where is the proof that this is harmful, that it hinders development? Certainly it can be used improperly. There are people who leave their babies in strollers and car seats and bouncers for long periods of time. Maybe don't do that. But where's the evidence that putting a kid in a stroller for an outing is harmful? That said, sometimes I do see like older kids in strollers, who, like 3 to 5-year-olds. That seems a little crazy to me. Once our kids start walking, I start cutting back on the stroller. Number one, I mean, I'd rather not use it. The thing's fucking huge. It's a pain in the ass. But number two, I mean, moving is good for us, right? And I would like to encourage our kids to get used to having to walk places. Finally, we get to the recipes, which are numbered wrong. of course. I love this one, which is just fruit. And there's this other one that's just nori chips, just nori. Otherwise, looking through these, it really could be worse. Many recipes contain fat, often hemp seeds and walnuts and flax stuffed with omega-3s. That's great. But yeah, you've got lots of fruit, lots of greens that are going to be really tough for little ones to eat. Raw greens, like these collard wraps. I mean, how well can they even chew that? What are they even getting from that? I can't even chew that particularly well and digest it. She has these crackers with flax seeds and whatnot, and they're not like blended up or anything. How much omega-3, how much of anything can kids even get from that? Or adults? Like, why are you just eating whole flax seeds? I don't know. No major protein sources other than from the nuts and the seeds that are included. And I would really worry about calcium and iron and zinc. And overall, it's just very, very restrictive. Again, why? But she did say that you can feed some cooked foods. And again, she does feed her little girl some cooked foods, which really could make all the difference, right? You throw in a serving of beans a day, some calcium fortified soy milk. Just those two things would go a long way toward fulfilling, again, protein, calcium, zinc needs. I almost forgot about iodine. She does include nori seaweed in a couple recipe, again the nori chips, but nowhere in the book does she mention iodine at all. Does she bring up that plant foods in general are not an adequate source? You really need to make sure your kid has a regular source of iodine in their diet. Most kids meet much of their iodine needs from cow's milk. Ours take a multi that has it, and they also eat some iodized salt. Just giving your kids seaweed occasionally, whenever, really not good enough. And that's the book. It's not as bad as I expected, but I still cringe at the thought of parents trying to feed their children this way. I mean, I think many would quit pretty early on once they see how difficult it is and just how few calories their kids will eat when you're just feeding them fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. But some will keep going because they believe Ashley when she says that cooked food is slowly killing children. My Lord. And their kids could end up really sick as a result. So yeah, it's concerning. Again, for an actually good source on vegan kids and vegan nutrition for kids, check out that book I referenced earlier. They actually do talk about iodine. It's really great. It's by far the best source on vegan nutrition for kids that I have found. Cannot recommend it highly enough. I really need to make like a whole video about it. It's great. So yeah, that's it. That's her book. It ends there. It's very paltry. I don't know. There's not a whole lot here. It's been a while since I did like a what my kids eat video, hasn't it? Ooh, maybe I'll make an Instagram reel. I finally started making reels on Instagram. I've been getting this notification that's like, you can make bonus money with reels. I thought it was like fake or something at first because I didn't even know what a reel was. But every time I signed into Instagram, I kept getting this thing. So finally I clicked on learn more and it was like, oh, okay. They're trying to compete against TikTok, just like YouTube with shorts, right? The YouTube shorts trying to compete against TikTok. So they're offering these bonuses, as they call them, to certain creators, and you have to get a certain number of views within the allotted time. I think it's 30 days, and you get whatever the bonus is. So for mine, it's $800, 1.7 million views. Totally achievable. I can do that. I just need to make like 20 videos a day for 30 days. Yeah, I can do it. But I wanted to see how the app is because I really don't like the YouTube Shorts one. I really like the Instagram one much better. It's much easier for me to actually use and make something in the app. Whereas with YouTube Shorts, I don't know, it works better for me to actually just make it in my editing software on my desktop. And then upload it to YouTube that way, like how I normally upload a video. So I really like being able to actually just use my phone and to be able to make something quick, like what I ate today, really quick. And yeah, so I think I'm going to keep using it until I get bored. Yeah. Point is, that would be a good place to put, like, here's what, my 5-year-old vegan kid ate today, or my 3-year-old vegan kid, or whatever, So yeah, maybe I'll do that. And if you have any little ideas for reels, that would be helpful because it's hard. talk a lot. I make videos that are 20 plus minutes long often. It's really hard for me to make a 60-second video. How do you, what? Oh, and I saw that you can even, like, if you have a comment on one of your reels or even on your posts, maybe you can take that comment, like you click on it and you can make it reel and it'll have the comment. I think TikTok does that, right? And it'll just have the comment there and you can reply to it with a reel. Oh my gosh, do y'all remember back in the day, YouTube would let you do like reply videos to other YouTubers? That was awesome. I wish they still did that. Oh, I don't know. Do I? But yeah, I'm sure this is all just standard stuff with TikTok, but I don't really use TikTok. So for me, it's like, oh, I can just reply to a comment with a video. Oh, anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't feed your children all raw foods or even mostly raw foods. I mean, duh. And yeah, like the video if you liked it, subscribe. You can support the channel, patreon.com/anaturalvegan. And I will have a new video very soon.